We're going to talk about adhesives today. We have a whole variety of adhesives because different adhesives are used for different materials. The first one we're going to start with is wood glue because that is commonly used in here. So I've got two pieces of wood that I want to adhere together like that. You can rough up your surface a little bit with sandpaper. You do want it to be clean, so don't leave that sawdust on there. Our surface is clean. I'm gonna put that on to the surface. This type of glue is non-toxic. You can totally touch this with your fingers. Line those up. And then you need to apply pressure. We're gonna have a clamp that's handy right here. You want to let those sit for the bond to fully dry. You can't just hold it together for 15 seconds and expect it to be a permanent bond. It will take longer than that. For this type of glue, it's 30 minutes or longer. A lot of the time you will use glue, wood glue specifically, with screws. And then once this is clamped together, you can drill your holes, put your screws in, and the screws will act as the clamp and holding those two pieces together. If I undo this right now and let that bond break just even a little bit, it's not gonna be strong. Always keep that in mind with all of the adhesives, your dry time.
There's a dry time and there's a cure time.
Yes.
The dry time is usually shorter, so 30 minutes I think is correct for the wood glue, but I think it's like 24 hours for a full cure. So you still want to be gentle with it for that whole 24 hours.
You have other glues like a PVA. This is for paper, and so you can be gluing collage material together, paper onto materials like wood. It's pH neutral, and so it doesn't have any acid in it. It's not going to discolor your paper or collage material that you're putting it onto. These three are epoxies. And so you can see in each of these containers here, there's actually two reservoirs of material with two plungers. And as these are pushed through, they come out together and mix. And those two materials are having a chemical reaction that causes them to bond. You can also see right here, the setting time is 5 minutes. You always want to read the specific directions on the back, and each one of these brands is going to have slightly different directions for those. This is toxic material. You don't want to be using this in your dorm room. Or in your house. You need to be in outdoors or in a well-ventilated area, like our spray booth. Use if you need to attach, different types of materials together. So plastics, even metals, and wood with this. But please read the directions on the back of these. You can see there are strong warnings on some of these. Super glue, it's very runny. It's a very thin viscosity. It flows very easily when you put it down, and it can get attached to your fingers, attached to other things. So you do want to be kind of careful with it. And again, with any type of adhesive like this, read the directions. You need to press the surface together for 15 seconds. So hold them together for 15 seconds. It's an acrylic adhesive. Sometimes it's called Acro-Weld. And this is actually specifically for gluing together plexiglass. I have some plexiglass right here. This is a bond. These two pieces right here are bonded together. I've done this previously, and this has actually welded the two pieces together. So these at one time were separate. They are actually one unified material now. It comes with its own syringe. You just need a little bit. You can see it looks like water. This does have vapors, but I am working in a ventilated area. I have all of my doors open, and I have fresh air coming in and out of the space.
Because this is watery, you have to have a very tight connection between your two materials. It will not fill any of the space. It will connect only what's touching.
I'm actually, for this application, I'm pushing the two materials together and I'm applying, and that capillary action is sucking in the acro weld into that bond. So I'm holding those down. I can already start to feel, if I start to do this, it's not moving very much. So the bond is already forming between the two pieces of plastic.
The difference between a weld and adhesive, usually the glue would be between the two materials holding it together. In this case, the solvent dissolves the acrylic itself and it bonds the two pieces together. So that's what welding does as well. When you think of like metal welding, it heats up both surfaces and adds material, but it becomes one. Each one of these adhesives is going to tell you what the working time is, set time or fixed time. This one gives you as well, within 72 hours, it has 80% strength. So it's actually going to get stronger over time. Just like that. We don't want to try to pull those apart right now, but within a few days, that's going to be extremely difficult to separate. So this is a construction adhesive. I'm not going to cut this open, but for adhesive like this, you would cut the tip out. You can actually cut the tip to the size of the bead that you need to push out. So we could do a very fine bead of 1/8 of an inch right there, or we could do it up to like 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 inch if you needed that. For all our cake decorators, you may understand that if a skinnier tip is a smaller bead, right?
Yes, exactly. And you would need to use a cotton gun to apply that material together. Rubber cement here.
What you're going to want to do with rubber cement is apply it to both surfaces that you want to put together, let it dry, and the rubber that has dried onto those surfaces, when you push it together, will have a very strong bond. Rubber cement is also archival, so if you are using photographs or collage material that you don't want to have yellow over time, this would be a good glue to use. It's also not wet, so when you put a water-based glue on paper, it will bubble up just like any paper that you get wet. This will not do that. It's a no wrinkle system.
Flat. It lies flat. Another quote-unquote glue that everybody is familiar with, which is hot glue. Hot glue. Hot glue is not actually a glue, and you shouldn't think of it as such. Hot glue is a plastic. You know, people will use hot glue incorrectly a lot of the time, and they have expectations for what the hot glue will do. For instance, they think that they can use it to attach metal together. You cannot use this to attach metal together.
Let's think about the properties of this glue. It's plastic that we're heating up. If you put it on a cold surface, it's going to cool too quickly to actually adhere. So rocks are tricky to glue together unless you heat them up. Metal, again, is a cold material. So those very smooth and very cold materials are very not good for hot glue.
There are different types of hot glue, and so we have like a hot melt glue sticks here that can be used with woodworking, but it's not going to be a super strong bond. We've got dual temperature ones here for all-purpose materials. So you've really got to use it sparingly most of the time and for a really specific kind of purpose. One thing with our hot glue guns too that you want to keep in mind, these get significantly hotter than the ones you may have used in the past, and I don't want anybody to get burned or be touching kind of this zone or leave these plugged in. So you absolutely have to unplug these when you're done using them. You want to keep the hot glue gun up like that when it's turned on. If you leave the hot glue gun on its side, turned on, it actually destroys the hot glue gun.
The hot glue burn is pretty awful. It's stuck to your skin and it's very hot. So in order to get that hot thing off of your skin, you actually have to peel off the thing that's burning you. It's not fun. So just proceed with caution with these larger, not craft hot glue guns that we have here.
Expandable Gorilla Glue here. This is a new bottle. This is a used bottle. You can see at the tip here, the glue has bubbles in it because it actually expands. You do, again, need to use this with a clamp. You have to use this with a clamp. We have some other types of aerosol adhesives right here. And this is like a specific type of adhesive for gold leafing, for metal leafing. This is a spray adhesive that is very commonly used. I'll give a demo showing this. It's archival. And then there's other types of materials like this. This is a sprayable plastic, or these are both sprayable plastics, different types. And while these aren't labeled as adhesives, they can be used as adhesives. So if you're at the store and you see materials like this, you may want to experiment with them, or something you can embed objects into. A joint compound here. This is, traditionally used for drywall. That's what this is used for. But you may have a purpose to use this as an adhesive, to put in between different types of wood, different types of paper.
I've used joint compound to put cardboard together. Can actually look kind of interesting, and it works decently.
This is our spray booth right here, and this is a fantastic spray booth. To turn the spray booth on, there's a switch over here. Right there. You can hear that turning on the ventilation system. That's our light. This is the actual filter right here, and the filter works best the closer you are to it. So if you're trying to use the spray booth right here at the perimeter, it's not going to function as well. If you can get closer to the filter, and you'll have better results. When you use an aerosol like this, you definitely want to shake it up and be conscious of where you are. If the filter is pulling the air in, you don't want to be spraying right here, because the spray is actually going to get onto you. You want to be spraying in this direction so the aerosol goes into the filter. Have some photo material here, some paper material. So I'm going to cut a piece very quickly. Just like that. I want to adhere it onto this. So I need to think, if I have two materials that I want to adhere to, which one should I put the adhesive onto? Do I want to spray it all over this object right here and get the entire thing sticky? No, you don't want to do that. So I'm only going to spray onto this object, not onto that object. I'm going to turn the filter on. We have a very flat, clean bond. There's no adhesive that's on the outside of this piece of collage material right there, and it's very clean.
What do you think hot glue would have looked like to put that piece of collage material on there?
So hot glue on something like this, because it's so thick, it could leave it lumpy. Don't think hot glue is the answer all the time. There's a wide variety here, a selection of materials, adhesives that you can use. There's even more. If you go to the store, it might feel intimidating at first to go into the aisle and see this whole shelf and shelf after shelf of different types of glues. But you can ask people there, you can ask me, you can ask Professor Walcott, and you can do your own research. Just read the back, read the labels, read the directions.
I think a few questions to ask yourself when you're choosing a glue is what material you're using and what your process is like. Certain materials will ask for different kinds of adhesives. Certain gaps will ask for something different. Obviously, super glue is thinner than expanding Gorilla Glue. And if your process is repetitive, you may need something that cures quickly, like the super glue, which has the 30-second cure time. So just think about what's appropriate for your
project.